Osaka were kind enough to send me out one of their ProtoBow sticks. So this is part of the Pro Tour line, or the NOS line as they call it. This stick features an extreme low bow profile, so a maximum bow point of 24mm, located 200mm from the head of the stick, but it also has a twisted head, so the face is more open, the hook of the stick leaning slightly further back at the top than the bottom. It also has a slimmed down head to make it easier to get under the ball. This stick is specifically designed to be their most extreme bow profile. The stick is made up of 98% carbon and 2% Kevlar, and the specific stick that I got from Osaka weighed in at 527 grams and had a balance point of 38 centimeters from the head of the stick. So despite the balance point being a little bit lower than most sticks that I use, the stick still had an incredibly light feeling on the ball. Combined with that, the stick was very stiff and so gave amazing feedback. So whenever the ball was in contact with the stick, you were always very aware of where it was on the head of the stick, giving you great control and great confidence in moving the ball around. That open stick face from the twisted head was also fantastic for carrying the ball on your reverse stick, as it gave a really nice angle and it was really comfortable to carry the ball, especially when you're driving down the left wing and trying to keep the ball as wide as possible. So this stick was fantastic for dribbling, combining those elements, the really high responsiveness on the ball and the really light feel of the head. It gave great control when you were dragging the ball around and moving it in tight spaces, and gave incredible confidence when receiving the ball under pressure. The downside of that open head being twisted back means it's very easy to get under the ball. So whether that's dragging too quickly and trying to stop the ball with the stick at the wrong angle and it causing it to bobble, or when trying to trap the ball when it's coming to your pace, you have to be very, very careful to keep your hands over the ball to trap it, but also to tilt the stick a little bit so that it doesn't bounce off that lifted face and spin out of control. That being said, it is fantastic for getting under the ball, so this stick was great for using 3D skills, whether that's just lifting the ball over a stick or whether that's getting a deflection on the ball and getting it to lift high into the goal. So as I've already said, this stick has a really stiff composition that gives amazingly high power transfer when hitting and just generates so much power. So as you saw at the beginning of this video, I actually had a shot so powerful with this stick that it took Boss F goalkeeper's glove off when he was trying to make the save. Because of the twisted head, it makes it very easy to get under the ball and cause it to lift. It took me a little bit of getting used to learn to compensate for that when shooting. So the first couple of sessions where I had this stick, when I was shooting at goal, it was always coming off the ground. It might only have been to top backboard, but when I was trying to fire the ball into the roof of the net, it did take me a while to get used to the angle of the face on this stick. Once I did finally get used to it, I actually found the stick to be very accurate. I found I was really confident in firing the ball into the bottom corners or into the roof of the net. So much like hitting on the open stick, this stick was fantastic for hitting tomahawks. That high stiffness and high power transfer is again a little bit stronger possibly on reverse because of the mass of the stick going through the ball. It gives fantastic power. I did find that the twisted head gives you a very thin edge, so you have to get the angle of the stick exactly right to be able to hit through the center and not cause the ball to lift. But once you've got that marker down, it's really consistent for shooting on reverse and it gives you a great deal of control. Because of the edge being so thin, it gives you great precision, so you can choose what height you're shooting at, whether you're shooting along the ground, to the top of the backboard, or into the roof of the net. The other thing that I found really useful with the twisted head was that when I was hitting upright reverse stick shots, it gave me a really consistent face to hit through the ball, and it generated a lot of power. And it carried on that accuracy and made me really confident shooting on my reverse stick, even upright. So as I mentioned right at the start of the video, this is an extreme low bow stick with a twisted head to make it even easier to get under the ball. So when it came to flicking, this stick was fantastic. I've already talked about how good it was for using 3D skills, but it was also fantastic for any kind of lifting. So whether that was a lifted pass to space for a teammate to run onto, lifting the ball over a stick, or flick shots at goal. Because of the angle of the face, it was so easy to get under the ball and lift it onto the face of the stick and then accelerate through. And the speed at which you accelerated gave you great control over whether it was a shot, a lift, or just a little flick, but it gave you amazing confidence whenever taking the ball to the air. One thing that I did find when it came to pushing slightly more than flicking was that if I wanted to keep the ball really flat to the ground, I did have to rotate the stick in my hand a little bit forward so that the stick face wasn't so open. So if you were taking a penalty stroke, for example, and wanted to push it into the bottom corner, you would have to rotate the stick a little bit, keep it under control. With a little bit of practice, I feel like you could get this in the air. So as you lift the ball into the air, you could then twist the stick and accelerate through to bring it back down and have more control over it in the air as well. But I didn't use the stick for long enough to really master it, but I definitely think that it's something that you could pull out. Again, when it comes to overhead, this is an extreme low bow stick with a twisted head to give you a more open face to make it easier to get under the ball. So it was, again, fantastic for chucking overheads. You could easily get under the ball, and the light feeling head meant that you could accelerate through and easily chuck the ball 30-40 yards down the pitch with a great deal of accuracy. One thing that you do have to watch out for when chucking overheads is if you're really trying to throw it as far as possible, you need to make sure that the ball doesn't slip off the side of the shaft, with that twisted head not guiding it up the center but up the top edge of the stick, making it a little bit more difficult when you're really trying to throw it as far as possible to keep it under control without just rolling it off the top of the stick and it going a little bit wayward and you losing accuracy. Again, with a bit of practice, I was fairly consistent with this stick, and I never really found that when I was chucking it under pressure that I'd lost control of it. But I know when I first picked the stick up and was chucking a couple of overheads, it happened to me a couple of times, so it is something that you have to account for. As I said at the start of the video, this is designed to be Osaka's most extreme profile to aid with drag flicking. With the bow point being so low down, combined with the twisted head giving you that open face to get under the ball, you can really accelerate through the pickup as that open face picks the ball up and guides it onto the face of the stick. So you're under the ball and you can move the ball as you want to during the drag phase. So you can accelerate the ball up the shaft of the stick into the bow and then whip back through to fire the shot at goal. Much like with overheads, if you try and rush it too much, it's very easy for the ball to guide up to the very top edge and you to lose control of it. I never found it just bobbling over the top of the stick when I was using it, but I do feel like there was some accuracy lost in terms of the height of the ball. It was usually going left or right as I was trying to aim it, but not at the height that I wanted. So if you're trying to throw the ball to the post for a deflection, your teammate's not going to appreciate if it comes at knee height rather than along the ground. But again, with a bit of practice, I was able to get this under control and generate a great deal of power when flicking. Because of how extreme the bow profile is, it's very easy to add a lot of power late on. So right at the very end of the flick is where you generate a lot of momentum. And so deception with this stick was fantastic. Because of how late you add all of the power, it makes it very difficult for goalkeepers to read because you're whipping through at the last minute. So I found it especially easy when using this stick to find the top corners, and especially to find the top corners with deception, which is something you don't always get with these drag flicking sticks. So I really enjoyed my time with this stick. The fantastic dribbling, the amazingly responsive feel on the ball combined with that awesome hitting power was just fantastic. Coupled with that, how great it was for flicking. This is an absolute dream if you are a forward player trying to get into the D and create chances. You don't have to just focus on hitting, you can take a quick flick because it can generate so much power so quickly and catch the goalkeeper off guard. It's also got a really nice consistent edge for tomahawking. It's not the greatest feature of the stick, but it doesn't ever seem to let you down. And then obviously for drag flicking, it's fantastic. It is an extreme low bow, it's a very aggressive profile. So you add a lot of power late on, which means it's great for deception and can bag you a lot of goals. Thank you very much for listening. If you have enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. If you want to support further, I have my Boss F Hockey shop at bossfhockey.com where I do grips, I do hockey themed t-shirts, and if you want to support even further than that, I also have the Boss F Hockey Club. It's available via Patreon or on bossfhockey.com. It starts from just £1 a month and it gives you early access, it gives you bonus entries into giveaways along with loads of other stuff as you move up through the tiers. Once again, thank you very much for watching.